What's going on, Shuffle Squad? I hope you all are having a fantastic day. I'm Vulcan Turtle, and today I'm bringing you guys another How to Beat It video. After Charlotte Regionals and with Fort Wayne around the corner, these are two decks that might pit against each other quite often. However, there may be situations that both players might not really know how to play this specific matchup. So let's get into it and show you guys the two lists that we're going to be pitting against each other. Alright, so to start with the first list, we have Cal Connor's top 16 Mew VMAX list. Now, this is a list that I feel like a lot of players are probably going to gravitate to since it has such a good matchup against a lot of the different meta right now. A lot of players are playing Drapion, don't get me wrong. However, Aerodactyl V-Star in Mew has been seeing a lot of play recently. And with Cal finishing in a top 16 placement, I'm sure this is a list that a lot of players are going to try and emulate in the future. Now, what does it have going for it? Well, like I said before, it has the Aerodactyl V-Star. If you're going first, you're able to lock out decks like Lugia, you're able to lock out the Drapion plays. There's a lot that you can actually do with simply utilizing that Aerodactyl V-Star's ability. Now, the other thing that locks you out of is you can't use your Forest Seal Stones anymore, but I think once you actually get that lockdown and you can just start swinging with the Mew VMAX the whole game, it's not that big of a deal. The other really interesting tech card that we see here is the Fan of Waves, and we're going to go into one of the most useful aspects of Fan of Waves, like one of the ways that you can actually utilize it in this specific matchup. So it's actually a really decent deck because against certain decks, you can get rid of a very important card, put it right back in the deck, and just kind of put the matchup in your favor, especially in the mirror. So let's go into deck number 2. Deck number 2 is actually my deck from Charlotte Regionals. I actually went to Charlotte Regionals. I went 5-2-2, so close to my winning in, but we didn't quite get there. I was playing Regigigas, the lads, and I gotta say, this is probably one of my favorite decks of all time. It's a lot of fun to play, but a lot of people seem to think that there's a good matchup for Mew against Regis, and I want to say that that's kind of not the case because there's a lot more that Regis can do in the Mew matchup than Mew can do in the Regi matchup that can kind of swing Regis in the favor of the win. However, there's still things that Mew can do to beat this matchup quite easily, so we're going to go over it pretty quickly. There's not a lot that there is to this matchup, so there's not too much I can say. However, let's go into the perspective of the Regi player. Now, one of the most important things that you can do is get a Regigigas built up. Regigigas has the Gigaton Break attack, which does 300 damage so long as you are attacking a VMAX. Now, you might say to yourself, 300 damage is not enough to be a Mew VMAX. However, if you can go ahead and utilize that Ancient Wisdom ability, you can start putting all these energies onto Regigigas so long as you have all of the Regis in play. From there, you're able to put a belt on to Regigigas and swing for 330. So even with Oricorio in play, you're swinging 310. That is the danger for Mew VMAX in this matchup, and it's something to kind of be wary of a little bit. So you go ahead and swing and just take a knockout. Now, if you're in the position where you don't really have the ability to put belt on Regigigas, let's just say you missed the belt, you don't have it, one of the things that Regis can do is just to simply accelerate onto a Regieleki. With Regieleki actually having the energy attached to it, you can swing 100 damage onto the Mew VMAX, but it also allows you to put 20 to 40 damage on your opponent's bench Pokemon as well. And I say 20 to 40 damage because Oricorio's lesson in Zeal says that Fusion Strike Pokemon in play take 20 less damage, so that's why we're only doing 100 damage to the active, but it does allow us to ping something like a Genesect for 20 and a Mew VMAX for 20. This allows us to attack with Regigigas later without really needing the belt. With the 100 on the Mew VMAX and the active, it also means that we can swing with Registeel and do 200 damage to also get close to a knockout, but we do need the belt. That Oricorio can be an issue for Regi, so that's something that Mew can definitely take advantage of. Now, in the early game, something that Regis can do is, if they're not quite built up, because sometimes the deck is known to brick a little bit, you can just simply attach to a Regieleki and swing for Static Shock. However, another important thing to take into consideration is that if they do have Oricorio in play, you're kind of just essentially swinging for 0 damage, which is not what you want to do. So this is an instance where you're going to have to use a belt early to swing for 20 on Mew V. Yeah, the other Mew V in the background can evolve and just start swinging with a full health, but this gives you time to find another belt and get yourself built up for Regigigas to come in and take a huge swing knockout. So what's another play that we can make here? Well, there's another thing that you should take into consideration, Registeel. Registeel is actually a really good attacker in this matchup because with its heavy slam attack, you do 220 damage. It says that it does 50 less damage for each of the retreat costs in your opponent's active Pokemon. However, Mew V and VMAX have exactly 0 retreat costs, meaning that you can swing for that full 220 if there's no Oricorio in play. But if there is an Oricorio in play, you can just go right on ahead and swing for 220. This is enough to actually knock out a Mew V, but not Mew VMAX, since it does it has 310 HP, but it's a good way in the early game to maybe pick off some Mew Vs. Now, if you are in a situation where the Mew VMAX player actually plays Lost City, and I think it's one of the more popular cards in Mew VMAX, it helps them in this matchup, and Mew VMAX players, listen up, because this is something that you're going to want to pay attention to, and we will go into what you can do in this situation as well. There's this little strategy known as Regi looping, where you can actually kind of still get by with Regis gone into the Lost Zone. So what Lost City does is when a Pokemon is knocked out, it goes into the Lost Zone. So for Regis, this is actually terrifying because you need all the Regis in play in order to accelerate your energy. So in this instance, last turn, the Mew VMAX took a knockout on Registeel and put it in the Lost Zone. So what we need to do is we need to be putting a Registeel on the bench so we can accelerate with the Regigigas, get all those energies on our big homie. And what we do from this point is we play Scoop Up Net to put the Registeel back in hand. This does two things essentially. The first thing is it says, hey, we have Registeel in hand, we are able to put it down, accelerate, and keep it safe in our hand. So you, the Mew VMAX player, can no longer boss out the Registeel and lock us out from being able to essentially swing for 300 damage or 330 damage. And that is something that Mew VMAX players probably don't want to see, right? Because now they have to choose either, like, you can actually just even bench the Registeel and not have to worry about it whatsoever. But it pretty much says, hey, I'm not worried. I can keep this Registeel in my hand. You can swing into my Regigigas next turn, but we're not done accelerating at all because we kept the Registeel safe. So let's say in the instance you don't have a Scoop Up Net, what can you do? Well, in this specific instance, we have Registeel back on the bench. We have a discard pile full of energy. We can go ahead and Ancient Wisdom those energy onto the Regigigas, allowing us to swing for 300. Now, one of the things we can do is we can play Path to Peak, right? Which means that there's no Lost City and there's no fear of Registeel actually being bossed out and put back into the Lost Zone, so you don't lose both those Registeel. However, there is a chance that your opponent could actually find the cards they needed a second Lost City through something like Forest Seal Stone. They can definitely find a way to get that rolling for themselves, and you just bump that Lost City and just start swinging. Now, another thing that you can do to really ensure that they can't find that Lost City is you can Marnie them. It's just a basic Marnie path Marnie situation where you try to get the Mew VMAX player into a position where they're not going to be able to kind of come out of the path stall. Now, I understand I forgot to actually put like a belt on here and the Oricorio is on the bench, but in this instance, if you had a belt on, you would get the knockout on Mew VMAX, and now the only Pokemon that Mew VMAX is going to want to actually swing into is the Regigigas because it is the most threatening Pokemon on the board, as if it has belt, it has 330 damage output, 310 with Oricorio, so even with Registeel on the bench and a Lost City in play, if there still is one, they're most likely not going to swing into the Registeel because the Regigigas is such a threat. Now, I believe it is time for Mew VMAX's turn, and the most important card that we were talking about was Lost City. Lost City is, again, that card that allows you to put a Pokemon that is knocked out into the Lost Zone. This goes for both players, so even Mew VMAX players can lose their Mew VMAX. However, in the Regi matchup, this is extremely important. If you can actually get yourself built up and take advantage of the situation that, let's say, the Regi player just could not get built up and they are not able to actually get a nice bench full of Regis and start swinging like crazy, you're actually able to take advantage of this by bossing out any Regi that your opponent has in play that they only play 2 of. So you can go for Drago, you can go for Rock. In this instance, we'll go for Rock. Now, I personally think I definitely messed up the animation here. We should have went for the Drago so they couldn't draw if they had a hand less than 4, but this is kind of the same. It all just goes the same. You want to knock out a Regi that they only play 2 of, so that way your second Lost City doesn't go to waste trying to knock out something that isn't already in the Lost Zone. If you can start locking the Regi player early, you're able to take advantage of the game. So let's say you're in the late game here. What is something that you can do? Now, Registeel is currently in the Lost Zone, and we're going to go over that Regi looping situation again. So Mew VMAX knocked out a Registeel and it is gone. The Regigigas is in the active here. It's got stuff, all the energy attached to it. Let's say the situation is a Mew VMAX knocked out Registeel. Regigigas got built up and was able to knock out the Mew VMAX. The Mew VMAX player was able to promote the Mew VMAX that you currently see in the active, and now we are in this situation. So what did the Regigigas player do in order to accelerate energy onto the Regigigas? Well, they did that loop. They played the Registeel and then scooped it back into hand. So what can you do to take advantage of the situation? One, you still have Lost City in play, so you do have the ability to start taking care of these Regis. However, you have Roxanne, and what Roxanne says is if your opponent has 3 or less prize cards remaining, your opponent shuffles their hand into their deck and they draw 2 cards. This is actually a huge advantage for you, the Mew VMAX player, because Regi is not really going to be able to draw anything except off the Regidrago. Now, if you're an experienced player, you're going to say, hey, Regigigas has gift energy attached to it. Well, Cal Connor did put a Fan of Waves in his list. Now, this is a card that I actually think is really good in this matchup because it allows you to target that gift energy and put it back into the deck. So when you go ahead and swing with the Mew VMAX and knock out the Regigigas to put it into the Lost Zone, they're not going to be able to draw any cards except for the 2 that they got off the Roxanne. They're going to have to rely on Regidrago to get them out of this sticky situation. Unfortunately for Mew VMAX players, there's not much else that you can really do in this situation. I could be very much wrong, that there might be a ton of plays, so if you know any, please let it be known in the comments. Now, the only thing I can really say is Roxanne when you can and judge often. That's pretty much like the big things that you can do. So that is going to be today's video. Don't forget to check out late night tournaments over on Limitless. We are over on PTCG now. No more PTCGO late night tournaments, unfortunately. And let me know in the comments, what 2 decks do you want to see pitted together? I know that we're coming up close on rotation, so if you actually want to see some of the newer decks going up against each other, please let me know in the comments. I'm sorry, Mew VMAX players, there was not much else that I could say for you. It is an extraordinarily difficult matchup, but hey, the hope is not gone. You do have ways out of it. Don't forget to check out our sponsors in the description. We always appreciate when you guys do, and it helps support the channel. And until next time, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next Thursday.
The Shuffle Squad is proudly sponsored by Atlas Collectibles, the best place to buy any trading card game product online. Visit atlastcg.com and at the checkout screen, make sure to use code TSS12 to save an unbeatable 12% off your entire order. Atlas Collectibles will ship your product anywhere in the world, so make sure you're taking advantage of the 12% savings with TSS12. And if Pokemon is not your thing, don't worry. Go to atlastcg.com and see all the other amazing trading card game products they have there to offer.
The Shuffle Squad is partnered with PTCGO Store to provide our community with the best access to Pokemon TCG codes. They have codes available 24/7, instant email delivery, and you can save 5% off by using code TSS5. If you're a YouTube member or Patreon supporter, you'll have access to a special code that gets you 10% off. So what are you waiting for? Use code TSS5 today and save 5% on your next order of codes on any codes available at ptcgostore.com.
Are you trying to be the best like no one ever was? Now is your time. Head on over to metafy.gg and search out all our amazing Pokemon TCG coaches, where you can book all sorts of training plans ranging from deck help to full season sessions with your favorite coach. What a great way to up your game. Check out metafy.gg in the description below and take your game to the next level. Challenge yourself against trainers from around the world to compete for the biggest online prizing yet.
Are you ready for an unbelievable tournament unlike anything else you've ever seen before? The Shuffle Squad is proud to announce our newest tournament series, the Late Night Events, with an amazing grand prize that's bound to have you excited.
Players can compete via play.limitless.tcg.com's online tournament platform every Tuesday to get a chance to earn weekly prizes. And every week, your placement in the tournament is tallied by points based on your best finishes to earn your rank for the Late Night Invitational event.
The series will be conducted starting February 7th of 2023 and carry all the way through to the Invitational on July 9th of 2023, where the top players will be rewarded the grand prizing.
And the grand prize is a signed jersey and photo op with the entire Shuffle Squad, as well as a fully paid trip to the Pokemon World Championships in Yokohama, Japan. This includes hotel and airfare, whether you're a player or a spectator.
Don't forget to check out all the live coverage on our YouTube and Twitch channel of the top cuts of these events for every week. And subscribe so you can get notified where to watch the Late Night Events Invitational brought to you by the Shuffle Squad. Now get out there and start winning. We'll see you in Japan.